Hey everyone, welcome to the Caring Counsel podcast, a premier feature of the American Association of Christian Counselors. Our hope and our heart in all of this is to have clinical conversation engaging around the topics of mental health and matters of faith. Co-hosted by myself, Zach Clinton, Vice President of the AACC, alongside of my dad, Dr. Tim Clinton, President of the AACC.
This podcast has really been historically connected to the council council tapes that we had back in years gone by.
Yeah.
What we were trying to do and what we're going to focus on is meaningful conversation with leading experts in the field, whether mental health or ministry leaders, around topics especially related to today's generations. We want to bring that kind of information to you to help, quote, increase your counseling and ministry effectiveness. That's what this is all about. They've always been a special feature part of our membership benefit program, what people have loved. And so with that,
you guys, we hope and pray that you enjoy this week's edition. Dr. Kathy Koch, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
I tell you what, Dr. Kathy, every time we get the opportunity of connecting, I always glean so much wisdom from the wealth of knowledge and experience that you carry. All of us here at AACC have been blessed by you. Most recently, you came and spoke and presented at our AACC World Conference. Coming up, you're speaking in April at our Next Gen Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Cannot wait to have you here, but I cannot wait today to kind of dive into your newest resource, which I think is a valuable resource for all of us in this people helping space, titled Parent Differently: How to Raise Kids with Biblical Character That Changes Culture. Dr. Kathy, you're the founder of Celebrate Kids. That's based out of Fort Worth, Texas. You're a very well-known presenter, author, and speaker. You also have your PhD in Reading and Educational Psychology from Purdue University. I'm interested up front, if you could just acquaint our listeners, our members, our students a little bit more about yourself and some of the amazing things God has just gifted you and the opportunities He's entrusted you with.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm honored that the Lord would allow me to do this. And I'm a member of AACC. I joined several years ago. I believe in the people. I love the people serving, the people helping ministry. I am impressed with all of you and all that goes on within AACC. I'm a former teacher of second graders, middle school, high school coach, school board member of a Christian school, and university professor. And I thought I would do each of those forever. And yet God kept moving me on. And so for 32 years, I've been the founder of Celebrate Kids. And we podcast. I'm an author of 7 books with Moody. I've spoken in 30 countries in 50 states. I love the church, the school, the convention, the pro-life movement. Just all of us who have wisdom, right, Zach? We are to steward who we are and to steward what we have. And the Lord's allowed me to have practical messages that I know have helped. And it's just an honor. It's just a privilege to watch children, teens, young adults, parents, teachers, others get help, right? There's no shame in saying, I need some help here. You know, the culture's chaotic and people are messy, and it's more so that way than ever before. So for us to stand in the gap, I'm so looking forward to April. I can't wait to meet people in the trenches. I get the easy job, Zach. I fly places, tell people what to do and leave, and it's just like, it's easy. And what I'm so blessed that people listen to me, and I'm sure you feel the same way. And that we are going to have a chance to affect the people who are with the people, and making a difference on the front line to save lives and to change lives and to help people become who God created them to be. Part of my passion at Celebrate Kids, we were all created intentionally, and God chose us to have the gifts that we have. Ephesians 2:10 declares that, and He wants us to discover more about who He is by the using of our own gifts and by serving others is the way that we do that. And we're privileged. Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
We're going to have a blast. Like you said, the opportunity to impact those who leave an impact on others, in a sense, influencing the influencers, is such an amazing ministry, one that I cannot look forward to enough to be able to join alongside of you and partner with you this April again at our Next Gen Summit down in Atlanta, Georgia. But let me dive in here. I want to go into your book. Why I'm so excited about the conversation today. Again, Parent Differently: Raise Kids with Biblical Character That Changes Culture. Why I think it's so imperative to dive into this is because, you know, we need people to step into the gap, as you mentioned, to dive into and to pour into our next generation. I'm so blessed that the majority of my caseload, Dr. Kathy, is with children, youth, adolescents, young adults. It really stems around this next gen. I have a heart and I have a passion for them. I also, you know, I see in culture today kind of a divide where a lot of parents and children sometimes are struggling with one another, the family system, right? I marvel at the impact really at the family system and parenting styles. And, you know, I think that divide naturally comes. I think there are some things that can naturally happen where maybe it's the mom or the dad, the way that they were raised. You know, I know that families sometimes often reproduce themselves. I also think there's a lot working in culture that's ripping kind of parents and families apart, but also the issues and challenges of the day of being a child, being a kid in this culture. It's very challenging. You're on the front lines. I'm wondering up front, just what are you seeing and what are some of the things that are concerning to you?
Yeah, no, I would affirm everything that you've just said. One of the things that concerns me actually is how afraid parents are when I don't think they have to be. I
Hmm.
understand that there are a lot of difficult things going on, and children are making tragic decisions seemingly overnight,
Yeah.
and it's fatiguing, and there is real stress. I understand that, and yet we don't need to be parenting out of fear. We parent with
Yeah.
hope and love, and we believe that God is going to protect and provide, and we do our job of being in the Word ourselves and becoming who we can be, and being present to our children. Oh, Zach, we're way too busy. Moms and
Hmm.
dads, and we're all way too busy, and we're on our phones, and we're not in the same room with our kids, and we don't even act like a family. There's a living room,
Hmm.
almost every house, right? Let's live in the living room.
Yeah.
I'm so sad for the isolation where we go in front of a device in our room and we don't even act like a family. And I don't say that judgmentally. I
Yeah.
understand that those patterns are set, and it's hard to change, right?
Yeah.
One of the best things would be for someone to be listening and going, I can change that. I agree with Zach and Dr.
Yeah.
Kathy, and I'm gonna make some changes because you know what? We're worth it. You're
Yes.
worth it.
Yes.
Kids are worth it. Your clients are worth it. And we've gotta stand up and show them the hope. Because there is hope.
Yes.
There is hope.
There is hope. And as we know here at the AACC, what we stand on is the foundation that hope is a person and hope has a name, and his name is Jesus, right? That is the
Amen.
hope that we always have. We will never lose hope, but we may lose perspective, right? And I think there are some families
Mm,
out there that have maybe lost perspective, that maybe
mm,
do have those challenges and that those issues that arise. I think there's a lot of parents that they want to instill these character principles and qualities that you talk about in this book within their children, but maybe they just don't know how. Maybe they're taking
mm.
kind of that pressing nature of being more controlling, right? Trying to make them submit or to obey. This is my house. These are my rules. But as we know, the old adage says, right? Rules without relationship leads to rebellion, but
Mhm.
rules with relationship leads to respect. Dr. Kathy, I think a great place to start in our conversation today is based on your research, what is character and why is it important?
The word character comes from Greek and Latin origins, and it means to engrave and to be
Hmm.
marked. So if you think about it, our character is our reputation, the most important reputation, more
Yeah.
important than our popularity, our income, our beauty, or how handsome we are, or whatever. It's reputation, it's character, it is who we are, and
Hmm.
it is going to influence everything we become and everything we do. Biblical character, a little bit different, relying on the word of the Lord, relying on the Old Testament and the New Testament, not just the person of Jesus. Yes, we're called to be like him, and we need to work on that. We also have examples of Esther for young girls who need to be brave, and Daniel for young men who need to be courageous, and Paul and Peter and Moses and David and people like David who were failures in so many ways,
Yeah.
and yet used by the Lord and called a man after God's own heart. So to teach children through the attributes of Christ, the names of God, the people in the scripture, and then the truth, like 1 Corinthians 13. What if we took
Hmm.
the definition of love out of the marriage ceremony or leave it there, but also bring it into the home, and the fruit of the spirit and the beatitudes and all the
Hmm.
one another's, honor one another, love one another, submit to one another,
Yes.
greet one another with a holy kiss. What if we live that out? So
Hmm.
using scripture to change us, wanting to become like Jesus wants us to be, and knowing that it's possible when we put forth the effort.
Yes.
Zach, what children tell me is, Dr. Kathy, they tell me what to do.
Hmm.
And then they yell at me if I don't do it, but they
Hmm.
didn't teach me how. And so to honor the system we teach, we train. The Proverbs is all about teaching and training.
Yeah.
And that takes time and effort and more I listen longer, observe with greater intentionality what's going on here. And can we help other people do that? I hope that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. I think something as I walk alongside of a lot of parents who maybe are struggling maybe with their children in their home or trying to help them form these character qualities and traits, I think something that I always try to help them understand is this idea that at the end of the day, we're trying to not make them just obey, not make them just listen, but like you said, teach. And I think there's a difference between punishing our kids and disciplining our kids. Can you kind of speak to that for a second?
Oh, teach it, preach it. Absolutely. So, the reason that I wrote a book about character and not obedience is that obedience requires rule following. Children tell me I have to know the rules, and I need someone watching me to make sure
Yeah.
I'll be good, and I don't want to be punished. No, and rules change wherever you go, right? But your heart
Mm.
for character, your heart for righteousness, your heart for the Spirit and being transformed by Him, that goes with you everywhere you are.
Mm.
And so the instruction, and it might feel like a lot of labor to teach children how to be grateful and joyful and resilient and brave. And yet that labor, and what if the whole family worked on it? The labor of becoming brave goes with the child forever
Yes.
and will change, his and her life. And so the intentionality is huge there. Rule following, legalism,
Yeah.
catch me if I'm bad. That's not biblical. That's not what we want. What we want is for children. What I write about in biblical character is that children would know what to do,
Hmm.
want to do it, and be willing to do it even when the burden is heavy and no one is watching.
Mm.
That's who I hope we are.
Wow.
And let me say before I kick it back to you that the whole family can work on an issue. So if we have a client who, is not submitting, I wonder if the parents are not submitting, and could the whole family work on submission? If there's a
Mm.
child who is not kind and is very rude and very mean-spirited, I wonder where he is picking that up. Could the whole family work on being kind and generous with their words? And then we come home from work and school, and that's the conversation we have. Hey, mom, how were you generous with your words today? Were you kind to someone that you didn't want to be kind to? Because I was in school. Could I tell you about it, mom? That'd be so cool. So what if we work to affect the whole family, which is where all that role modeling and all that I caught it and I taught it stuff happens, right?
Right. It's a powerful point that you bring up because my dad, I remember he always taught me getting into the field, getting into the space as I was kind of just beginning my counseling work and really working with a lot of kids and youth was as I worked with them, he said, always kind of assess them and measure their marks across context, right? So how are they at school? How are they on their teams? How are
Yes.
they at home? And oftentimes what you start to recognize, what you just said is maybe the common denominator of their kind of negative or explosive behavior is just within the home. So maybe it's not just a kid problem as much as it is a family problem, being able to help the entire family. Let me ask you this, though, as we talk about character a little bit here, as we keep kind of progressing, you kind of identify that we're in a character crisis in our culture and nation today. And I'm interested, what do you think are some of those things that are really working against the formation of character?
Well, great question. Social media, we have to
Yeah.
mention that. Children, teens, even young adults, maybe even older adults, following people they don't need to be following, listening to voices not of the Lord.
Yeah.
And the liar is loud and prevalent in the lyrics, in the TV sitcom dialogue, in the people out and about, if I can put it that way. So social media for sure. The children
Mm.
are on apps they shouldn't be on. Parents need to say no to the no things, yes to the yes things, and not worry about not being their child's friend. You
Mm.
cannot parent with the goal of being liked by your children. I hope they like you.
Yeah.
They're going to like you and respect you when you're consistent and loving and on their side, etc. I also think that one of the things that's against us, not everyone's going to like this, is the busy parent who is on his device and her device and talking on the phone. And again, I respect that parents need relationships and we are legitimately busy. There's a lot to do. And yet, could we do some of that when the kids are in bed? And when the kids are at home, could we play checkers? And could we read a book together? And could we go for a walk, right? Very
Mm.
old-fashioned things that they form children. I think those things are huge. I'll say public education is difficult to navigate. If parents choose to put their children in public schools and we're counseling someone who's in that situation, we better be very alert. Most of the kids in America are still there. We've got a lot of really good people there teaching children, and yet there's a lot of misbelief
Yeah.
being embraced there. So ask your children the right questions when they come home. And seriously, Zach, if we feel like there's major influence that is damaging our children, we have a responsibility to then build a boundary. And boundaries are blessings when love is the goal, and we need to
Mm.
be better. We need to do that better. So I could go forever, but those are my first reactions. What do you think of that? What would you,
I
maybe
love
I'll
that.
throw the question back to you.
Yeah.
What have you noticed is a difficult thing in our culture that's impacting children?
I think the big word that came to mind is what you just mentioned was almost like a lack of engagement. And what you're really mentioning is
Yes.
kind of fostering those relationships with our kids, embodied relationships. I think devices are distractions, just like you mentioned, not just for maybe my generation of the younger parents, but I think that has actually gone all the way up through
Yeah.
every system, right? To where it's, older individuals now, I see them scrolling, and that's just become a typical habit of ours where we may be the most digitally connected, but the most relationally disconnected generation that has ever lived on the face of the planet, right? So being able to
Yes.
recognize those things and get rid of the distract, right? When you look at the meaning, means to draw away, right? I want to be
Um,
drawn toward my kids. I don't have kids yet, but that's what I want more than anything in my life, right?
yeah.
Is that opportunity.
So good. And one of the things we have to realize is that younger people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know the beauty of an in-person iron sharpening iron relationship
Yeah.
that is ongoing, where you learn to be transparent and vulnerable. They've not been raised to expect that. They don't know
Mm.
what they don't know. So those of us who know the beauty of long time relationships where
Yes.
you're able to go deep with, we need to model that and talk about that.
Yes.
And that's a reason to be motivated to say, hey, social media friends are different from in-person friends. In fact, I'm not even sure friend is the right word. Don't
Yeah.
friend me. It's just
Yeah.
we could go on and on, but so yeah, the problem's there. It's real. I love what you're saying about being really engaged, really knowing our people.
Absolutely, ma'am. I was reading a book last night in my PhD program by Donald Whitney on spiritual disciplines. And in the book, the
Mm.
first line in the book, Dr. Kathy, was discipline without direction leads to
Oh,
drudgery. And he gives this
yes.
beautiful point about this boy that is, his mom or dad wants him to play the guitar, tells him to go sit in the corner and go strum his instrument, and the kid doesn't really want to. And he looks out the window and he sees all the other boys and girls outside playing basketball, playing sports where he'd rather be. But it felt like that discipline was drudgery to him. But then it gives this depiction of what if that boy went to sleep that night, he had a dream, and let's just say God showed up in that dream and kind of took him to this massive orchestra where there was this guitarist playing a solo in front of thousands of people. And it was this beautiful sound, and God looked at this kid and said, son, what do you see? And he just said the awe-inspiring child, like, wow, right? And
Oh,
then this kid looks up at God, and God looks at him and says, son, that man right there is going to be you. All you have to
whoa.
do is practice, right? So the
Practice.
direction is what helps him then with the process of discipline. I'm interested, how does this concept of kind of discipline help with what you're mentioning in this Parent Differently book for character formation?
Yeah, discipline and disciple come from the same word.
Yeah.
And why are we a family unit? Why are we a family unit? Why did God put this man and this woman together and give us these 2.5 kids and a dog? There's a reason that we're a family. There is a reason that you're parenting that boy and not that boy.
Hmm.
And so we have to, who do we want them to be? Zach, let's decide who do we want our family to be?
Yeah.
I was raised by great people who were not believers. My parents were solid people. My brother and I both celebrated kids. My grandfather was mayor of my city when I was growing up. We were paid attention to,
Hmm.
so we paid attention, and we were thrilled to be a part
Yes.
of the Meyer clan. I was Irv Meyer's granddaughter. That's my grandpa,
Yeah.
and I was not ever ashamed to be Don and Arlene Cook's daughter. It's just important that we realize the family unit matters, and let's not splinter it any further, and let's invest in it. And so to disciple, to build character, which then can cause obedience. Here's what I would say. Every disobedient action you can think of is rooted in negative character.
Hmm.
So rather than stop arguing, why are they arguing? Submission, authority, a lack of flexibility, a self-centeredness. Why are they impatient? Because they're not compassionate.
Wow.
Why are they not brave? Because they don't, fill in the blank. There's reasons they're not brave. There's reasons they're not patient. There are reasons they're not resilient.
Hmm.
They're fearful. Maybe they're not brave because one time they stood up for themselves and they were shamed and they were bullied, and they don't understand that it's worth it,
Yeah.
especially if you're ambassador for Christ. So we can get better at this.
Yeah, we can definitely get better at this. And what it sounds like is, as you keep mentioning and kind of dissecting this idea of modeling, is that parents' character actually is influential in their children's character. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. And so is a coach and a
Yep.
teacher and even a counselor. If the counselor's running late and walks into the office and doesn't apologize,
Yeah.
that's not appropriate.
Hmm.
And I don't say that judgmentally. I'm
Yeah.
human too. Oh my goodness. But see, my friend, it isn't even about, well, how would I say it? I have tears in my eyes, okay?
Mm,
It's not even about modeling ourselves before Jesus. It's about glorifying
mm,
God in our choices.
yes.
And then when our children and our clients say, how is it that you like me? No one else does.
Mm,
I'm modeling to you the grace of our Father God.
mm,
We need to put God on display and we need to take it seriously because there aren't enough people doing it. And this, I don't mean this for pressure.
yeah.
It doesn't, I don't know about you, it doesn't feel like pressure to me. I
No.
love God.
Yeah.
I want people to know God and they're going to know him through who I am, not just through what I say or teach. And
Right.
the same thing is true again in our families. So yes, role modeling is important. A lack of integrity will ruin you. I remember teaching
Mm,
second graders and one of my children interrupted me. And so I had this little mini teachable lesson, right? The teachable moment, the best gift from the Lord, right? And so, we talked about how interrupting is rude and it's not sensitive and it's disrespectful and yada, yada, yada. And no joke, 2 minutes later, one of the teachers who teaches down the hall walked into my room, didn't ask if she could interrupt, didn't say, I'm so sorry, but I need you. She
mm.
walked into the room and just said, Miss Cook, I need you. And one of my boys said, she interrupted you. Like, oh my gosh. Another teachable moment.
Right.
So they're paying attention. And you know
Yeah.
what? They become who we tell them they can be. And
Ah,
they become who we tell them they can be, and they become who we show them they can be. And you know what? I would rather that moms and dads and counselors and coaches and piano teachers be the role models for them and not somebody they're following on some platform you don't even know they're following.
come on, Dr.
Mm.
Kathy. That's good
Thank you.
stuff. That's good stuff. And we need to be able to remind them again of the potential that maybe has gone untapped or suppressed for so long,
Yes.
reminding them of who they can be. I saw in your book, and I thought this was a fascinating point that I want you to kind of expound upon, is that children's beliefs are actually attached to their formation of character and how that gets developed over
Oh.
time. Help us understand as people helpers, how can we really process this with kids and help them kind of shift their beliefs to then be able to enhance their level of character?
Yeah, I love that question. We teach at Celebrate Kids that beliefs cause behavior.
Mhm.
So a way that you change behavior is to go under the surface to look for the belief. As an example, I can sweep away all the spider webs, but if I don't kill the spider webs will come back.
Yeah,
And yet I know if you ask a child, why did you just do that?
right.
She threw her sippy cup, or an eighth grader just chose to blow off the homework. Why did you do that? They often don't know,
Mm,
but there is a reason they did it. And when we observe longer and look for a pattern of the choices that they're making and begin to think about why we might have done it, we're going to be able to ask different questions to look at the why behind the what. Because we've got to get below the root, right? We got to
have
get
to.
or to the root. We have to get below the fruit to the root. And that happens again with intentionality. And what makes it intentional? We love well. This is our responsibility to raise up a generation that will be well and do well, even when no one is looking. So it is back to that discipleship idea. It's back to a conversation. It's back to I believe in a multiple choice. Let's say you say to the eighth grader, "Why did you blow off the homework? I
Yeah.
thought you were enjoying math." And maybe they're really not able to communicate. They either don't take a risk or they really don't know. Suggest three things, the multiple choice, and watch for the eyebrow lift, right?
Yeah.
The eyebrows always give it away. So you say, well, did you feel stupid as you were studying because it was hard and you didn't like that feeling?
Mm,
Are you mad at the teacher? And so you didn't want to earn a good grade to please the teacher?
mm,
Is there something going on there? Suggest to the kid. And the kid's gonna go, no, 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 no. And you know what I often see happen? 20 minutes later, they'll come back.
mm,
Hey, mom, I was thinking about something. Because you're teaching them
yeah.
that there's a reason. Here's another powerful idea, I think. The word choice is really powerful.
Yeah.
All behavior starts with choice.
Right.
All choices are rooted in a worldview, which is why we would believe in a biblical Christian worldview. So why did you choose to not do your homework? Oh, no, I just forgot. No, why did you choose? So you
Mm,
chose to forget. Well, no, I just forgot. Why did you choose?
mm,
So why did you choose? Why are you choosing disrespect? You just rolled your eyes and I could tell you're blowing me up. Well, no, I didn't choose. No, you chose.
right.
So I've actually said to kids, roll your eyes without deciding to. And you just stare down the kid. Just roll your eyes. You can't roll
Right.
your eyes unless you tell your eyes to roll.
Yep.
We have to teach children somehow that there are choices they are making.
Wow.
And why are they making them? Are they choosing disrespect or was it an accidental mistake? Because there is a difference between, an accidental mistake, if you will, or an occasional error in judgment
Yeah.
versus a child who just doesn't use any judgment at all. different
Absolutely.
conversations. I hope that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. You have to be able to help kids understand that they have real choices that lead to real results, and being
Yes.
able to make then the right choices that can lead toward character formation and not character, in a sense, termination or dysfunction. For you, Dr. Kathy, I think there are a lot of parents that sometimes may have the question of, are my kids too young to start teaching them these principles? Are they too far gone? And so I want to ask you this: is it ever too early, or is it ever too late to start teaching these character principles and qualities?
The answer is no, and I'm glad you asked. Children, babies, infants
Yeah.
are watching and listening. We have proof that a baby who's just been born will turn to the voice of the mother, not the voice of the nurse.
Hmm.
They're paying attention the whole time. So they're watching us and they're listening and they're begging us for instruction through their behavior. We have to just see it that way. And you know what? It is never too late. And I say that with humility. I understand that some of our listeners are dealing with deep-seated rebellion and
Yeah.
choices children are making that break our hearts. Sometimes we have to walk toward them, apologize. Hey, you're the guinea pig. We tried our best. We're learning some new things. Would you let us, would you come back? Let us try again. Mm, Yeah, it's never too late. And examine ourselves,
Yeah.
have a conversation. And you know what? Look for little improvement. Look for
Hmm.
the kid who will accept a 20-minute coffee date, not a 3-hour dinner. Be grateful for that. Look for little progress. Look for gains, not perfection, because perfection's dangerous for so many reasons, but expect growth. Be an optimist. Apologize if we need to. Work on one specific thing. Don't be overwhelmed by everything.
Hmm.
And see if you can find something in common that you could possibly enjoy again.
Yeah.
Again, my heart breaks for parents and grandparents who have lost
Hmm.
relationships. I just can't even imagine. And
Yeah.
yet, it's not too late. Why? Because Jesus came that we would change.
Right.
And God is with us and is a God of love and hope. And there is wisdom through AACC and counseling and therapeutic approaches in the wisdom of the Lord. And we got to lean into that.
Hmm. Dr. Kathy, I think that's an incredible point, right? That it's never too late because Jesus came that we might change. And so
Yeah.
that is our prayer, is that we would continually be able to foster that level of change, that level of character growth and development over time. I have just a couple more questions for you. One is, what if you're a counselor, what if you're a people helper, and you're walking alongside of a kid who maybe doesn't see that potential within themselves, who maybe comes from a really difficult home where it's like you get 55 minutes with them a week, you're trying your very best, right, to help them, draw this out of them, help them with character development and formation, but it's like they go back home and unfortunately it's almost like they're thrown back in with the wolves. How can you help them in those 55 minutes to start to see just a little bit more in who God created and destined for them to become?
Yeah, I love that sensitive question. Um, the first thing that I think of is teaching children that they have choices they can make. Yes,
Yeah.
they are a son or daughter of that person, and they have the choices they can make. They're
Mm.
not stupid. They're not bad. They make choices,
Yeah.
and you can start over. And I think that's huge. I don't know if you know this, but in the research that I did for the book, children think failure means they're bad,
Yeah.
and mistakes mean they're stupid.
Right.
So we have to be careful of the language we use, and we have to affirm them, see the strengths, connect the dots for them. That this went badly because of this belief that caused this choice.
Mm.
What choice could you have made differently? And what belief would be necessary? I think we can all, this takes real time. And what's challenging, right, in the counseling setting, they don't care necessarily. They were forced to come. Daddy said go, and they're there.
Right.
I don't even, I can't wait for the April event where we have
Yeah.
3 days to really affect the front line
Yes.
agents of change to the glory of God. We're so privileged. We have to believe in the believing of our believing that we're in a situation that is full of hope, or that kid would not have come to us as the counselor. We have to own it, be responsible for what we're responsible for, pray over them, try to get to the parents as well if we can. Ask our kids, who else are you listening to? What's your greatest need? We can do this.
That's right. Own it. Be responsible for what we need to be responsible for. Pray for the child. Go to the parents if necessary. Do all of these things and steward the opportunity well. Because like you said, every person that we get the opportunity of interacting with really is, in my opinion, a God wink, a God nudge, a God ordained ministry. And he has them there for a specific reason. And so it's just approaching it with humility and asking God for his leadership and his guidance and his direction and how you can steward to that individual's soul. Because really what we do isn't just mental health care, it's soul care and being able to steward the soul well. Dr. Kathy, as we kind of wrap up our conversation today, I'm interested in, talking about the biblical roots. Obviously, you are unashamedly a follower of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, something, again, that we love about you and that we appreciate about you very much here at the AACC. But I'm interested in not just understanding the importance and the significance of the biblical roots of this book and this text, but also, what is your prayer for our next generation as we kind of continually move forward on the road ahead?
Thanks for asking me that. The predominant prayer I pray is that they would become who God created them to be, that they would not be sidelined by negativity and depression, anxiety, and dysfunction and brokenness, that they would know in the knowing of their knowing somehow that there's more that is available to them and that they would want it and strive for it.
Yeah.
I pray that any of their negative choices would not last so long that they would become negative in their lives. I pray that the problems they have, let me say it this way, Zach. I don't know if I've told you this, but so I was a chatty Cathy as a kid, and now people pay me to talk. It's remarkable. I don't do what I do for the money. I was a chatty Cathy, and now I'm on a podcast with you.
Yeah.
Because my parents saw the words in me as a strength to develop, not a problem to eliminate. I could have been raised, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, shut up. Would you go find something to do? My parents listened to me. When I was 9, they enrolled me in children's theater, and they said, go talk there a while. And that's a true story. And now I'm an author and a speaker because I was raised by parents who saw the negativity as a strength gone bad. Almost all the things that drive us nuts are strengths, not weaknesses.
Wow.
And when I get in front of a group of people, even these people I'm teaching in Colorado, as soon as you and I are off air, I'm going to walk across the street and go teach a bunch of young adults. They need to know that the things that trouble them are ordained for them by God, just like their strengths. And they actually could be strengths. What they need are boundaries, blessings, motivation, inspiration, etc. I could go on and on. Thanks for asking me that question. We got to pray. We got to pray.
We got to continually pray. I love your heart. I love your passion for our next generation. I'm grateful for it. Dr. Kathy, where can all of our listeners, viewers, members go to purchase this book, find out more about you? This book, Parent Differently, Raise Kids with Biblical Character That Changes Culture. Where can they go to receive it?
Thank you so much. Our website is celebratekids.com, and my podcasts are there and the books and all kinds of things. And of course, we are, you can buy the books wherever you buy other books, but if you buy them from us, that's cool. And then we're also on Facebook, Celebrate Kids, Inc. I'd love for people to hang out with us.
Absolutely. I challenge all of our listeners, viewers, members, students, leaders, everybody tuning into these conversations. This is such an incredible resource that I really believe when you go through it, it is packed full of not just what character is, how character is formed and developed, but principles that we can begin to help families work through and just being able to implement within their own family system, as well as children, helping them see their full potential. Dr. Kathy Koch, I cannot thank you enough for your time, willingness to join us today here on our AACC Care and Counsel podcast. Cannot wait to see you this April in Atlanta, Georgia at our Next Gen conference as well. But that being said, again, we love and appreciate you. And to all of our members here at the AACC, we love you and we love being a part of your life.